Hey guys, welcome to Conversations with Tad. I am Michael Patton, and we are doing an impromptu session. We were just talking, just like we always do, and we say this needs to be a conversation online. So hopefully we can carry on the same discourse with the same mood, because that's our goal every time. It's got to be the same mood. It doesn't work if I get too formal, like I'm kind of doing right now. But that's just for you guys. Once Tad gets in here, we'll shake things up a little bit. But I'm talking to Tad. This is the deal. You know it. It's discipling Tad. Tad is my buddy. We're on session. What are we on? Session 23 or something like that. I don't even know if that's what we're going to talk about. I just loaded some stuff in there, but maybe we will. We'll see. I'll have to change it if not. But do we have a separate YouTube channel for this yet? We don't. Someday we're going to have a separate YouTube channel, and this is not going to be coming through just on Credo House. So be ready for that. It will be something called Just Conversations with Tad, kind of like I have if you know about my crypto theology, that other one. So we've got Theology Unplugged, Conversations with Tad, and Crypto Theology. But right now, this is Conversations with Tad. So get ready. This is discipleship, and I'm going to bring Tad in here. Go ahead and subscribe to wherever you're seeing this at, though, okay? Because the least you'll be able to keep up on everything, especially if you want to, in the future, keep up with the Conversations with Tad, just discipleship. He became a Christian recently, and he's trying to learn. I mean, just a minute ago, he asked me, don't tell him I told you this, but he asked me what a verse is, okay? I'm going to bring him in now. That's a good timing.
Oh, man.
he said I sent him this morning some scripture deal, and he sent me back and he said I'm going to have that framed into a picture, and then he called me and he said, "What's that called? Is that called a verse?" I'm sorry, Tad. I'm sorry. That's just too much fun.
I don't want to have it framed anymore because I only frame chapters.
You only frame chapters? Well, you know that. Chapter and verse. Give me book, chapter, verse. Once you got that down, pretty much a Christian right there. Book, chapter, and verse.
That's all it takes.
Okay, so I don't know, Tad.
Talking about to make this happen, it was keep going.
All right, hey, let me go this time and start it, and then you can change it however you want as we go. But I've got a plan. It's in my mind, okay?
All right.
First of all, I want to talk a little bit more about, and again, this is basically disciple. Me and you, we need to start at the beginning again and just go through all of it. That'll be the best thing. Once we get our own YouTube channel, we're going to go from the very beginning to the very end of theology, at least start with the discipleship program. But now it's kind of a bunch of random stuff. But one of the things that I noticed about Tad, and I told him this earlier, and I don't think he minds me saying this, but I noticed something about him that I think is kind of, one of those epiphanies. I've known Tad since I was, 16 years old. And so it's just, there's something different about Tad all the time. There's something different about everybody, but Tad is no respecter of person. And I told him that. Now, some of you who are watching this, you're like, oh, wow, that's a good thing. You're no respecter of person. And Tad said, what do you mean? I respect people. So that's a good one. But Tad, here's what I want to talk to you about. Okay.
Yeah.
Let me tell you a story. Okay, we're going to go into a story and then we're going to talk about it. This is a great story, and I've probably told you this before, but let me tell you it again in the context of what we're talking about here, being no respecter of person and where that came from. So I've told you to read Acts recently, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I don't know if you're
told me to read Proverbs.
Oh, I did? No, that was Kelly that told you to read Proverbs. Proverbs is great though. But the next book I want you to read through is Acts, because you read through all the Gospels.
I started reading Acts and then went to Proverbs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
That's where you're getting to know. Yeah, because you're getting to know Paul, and you're kind of obsessed with Paul. So
I like Paul. Yeah.
You've been going through Acts. I hope everybody can hear okay, because you're a little bit low for me. If anybody can type in there and tell me whether you can hear or not, that would be great. If Tad's low or if I'm low, I don't know what I can adjust here. I actually can adjust Tad right here. I'm going to pull you up some. But just let me know if there's sound problems. But in the book of Acts, you have...
I talk to you about how you just said everything. I'm going to write it down. But anyway, go
ahead. In the book of Acts, you have the you have the spread of the gospel after Christ has been taken up into the air. And the angels say, he'll come again someday. So that's kind of the next thing on the theological calendars. We're waiting for Christ. And so the book of Acts is all about them starting the church. And you know how you and I are excited because we're gonna make a big footprint on the church. We're basically, following the book of Acts. But here's what happens. Peter's great. Peter's all over the place. His personality, I think I identify most with Peter because he's rambunctious and he wants to do everything, but he usually isn't able to accomplish it and falls apart before it's done, or that kind of stuff. I just like him. I'll never deny you, Christ, and then 2 days later he's denying him 3 times, right?
Mm-hmm.
2 hours later, excuse me. But that's kind of the deal. And so here's Peter in Acts chapter 2. He gets the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit comes upon him. He starts speaking in tongues. This is the birthday of the church, is sometimes what it's called, the day of Pentecost. The day of Pentecost is, you may have heard that before, Pentecostal. It doesn't really have anything to do with Pentecostal, the denomination. It kind of does, but that's a different story. But we all believe in the day of Pentecost, the birthday of the church, where the Holy Spirit came down and filled the apostles, and they began to speak in tongues, other languages, to people all over the world, and telling them the great news about Christ. Peter, at that point, was the leader. He was awesome, right? He was moving forward. He was leading the apostle. They had lost an apostle with Judas because he hung himself. And Peter gets all the apostles together and says, hey, man, I'm taking charge, and we're electing somebody new. So they elected Matthias. So Peter is definitely the leader, and he's pushing everything forward. So Acts chapter 2, that happens. Now I'm jumping all the way to Acts chapter 10, which is about 10 years later. Okay, so it's a long time later. Peter's been a Christian for a long time. He's been spreading the gospel. He's been telling the Jews about Christ and how Christ is actually the Messiah and you must believe in him, all that kind of stuff. Acts chapter 10 is where it comes in. And it's really funny because it is a story about a man named Cornelius. In Acts chapter 10, verse 1, it says, now there was a man at Caesarea named Cornelius, a centurion of what was called the Italian cohort. So he was a soldier. He was a soldier in the Roman army. He was not a Jewish person. This is the type of person that most Jews at the time didn't like. A devout man and one who feared God with all his household. So he loved God and feared God. These were called God-fearers if you were in the early church and you weren't a Jew and you weren't a Christian, but you believed in God of the Old Testament. You were called a God-fearer. They needed to have it updated. They needed to be told about Christ. All they knew is the Old Testament stuff. And so here's this guy Cornelius with his whole household, believes in God, and then an angel comes to Cornelius and says, hey, go get this guy named Peter, send for him. He's going to come, got a message for you, right? And so Peter is sitting on the top of this tanner's house, sleeping, and an angel comes to him and says, hey, you got to go over to Cornelius's house, and you got to tell him about the gospel. And this is where Peter comes in.
We talked about Cornelius, because that's when you said the word you're not supposed to say. But yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Remember that?
I don't know. It seems like I have told you because I get excited about
this story. You
called
them Orientals, and I said, man, you can't say that, they're Asians.
No. That has nothing to do with Cornelius. Maybe it was.
Same story.
I don't know. Right. And I can say Orientals. Thank you.
You cannot.
I can too. I'm part Oriental.
Should.
I'm part Oriental. I've got that. I had one of those DNA tests done.
Oriental, you're part Indian.
Yeah, I'm part Indian too. And where do you think Indians came from? Indians came from the east over through Alaska down. That's who we are. Leave me alone. Okay, listen. This is where Peter, he comes to Cornelius and he says, you know how unlawful it is for me to associate with a non-Jew or a foreigner or even visit him. Yet God has showed me that I should call no man unclean or unholy. Now, he goes down and he says, hold on just a second. My screen is blinking. Peter opened his mouth and said, of a truth, I perceive that God is no respecter of persons, but in every nation that fears him and works righteousness is accepted to him. So basically, here's what Peter said, and this is what I was talking about when I said you're no respecter of persons. I said, you do not, like God here, God does not show favoritism towards people. He doesn't have favorites. And I know that seems weird to a lot of people because the Jews, they're his chosen people, but that is not showing favorites. That is showing an avenue through which he is going to reach the world. And Peter didn't know this at this time. Peter was a respecter of persons. Peter did respect the Jews more than the Gentiles. And so this is the concept that I was telling you, is that have that quality. You are not a respecter of persons. And I wanted to tell you that whole story, where that came from, because God is not a respecter of persons. God does not show favoritism, is a major theme in the Bible, one that the Jews did not get all throughout the Old Testament, and to where Peter, it took him 10 years of being filled with the Holy Spirit to finally get this deal that you are not to be a respecter of persons. One more thing. Okay, I promise.
No, you take 3 more things.
Okay. But
this is what I'm going to say.
No, I don't forget it. Write it down or something. This is in Luke chapter 7. This is another kind of theme that I was thinking of whenever I said this. Luke chapter 14, verse 7 through 11. This is Christ. Talking about Christ. When he noticed how the guests packed the places of honor at the table, he told them, when someone invites you to a wedding feast, do not take the place of honor. Okay, just pause right there and see what that means. You go to a wedding feast. What does it mean to take the place of honor? You're taking it. You're the one who is engaging. You're not, you just automatically take it. Place of honor. For a person more distinguished than you may have been invited. If so, then the host who invited both of you will come and say to you, hey, give this person your seat. Then humiliated, you will have to take a lesser important seat. And that's kind of how they did it, these dinner tables. You would sit to the right hand or the left hand of the host. And if you sat on the right hand of the host, that's the greatest thing because you're cool. And so here's Christ saying, don't do that. But when you are invited, take the lowest.
Right hand of you right now.
Huh?
I feel like I'm sitting on the right hand of you right now. Yeah.
Well, that is a place of honor, brother. I'm not sure you got that place yet.
I feel it.
I don't want to have to move you down, so don't take that.
Yeah, no, I just got chills when you said that because I'm like, I'm on the right side of the mic.
That's funny. That's funny. Now here's a final deal. Christ said, when you're invited, take the lowest place, so that when your host comes, he will say to you, friend, move to a better place. Then you will be honored in the presence of other guests. For those who exalt themselves, this is the key. Here's the key principle. Christ says, what does he mean by all this? Those who exalt themselves will be humbled, but those who humble themselves will be exalted. It's the same type of deal. And that's
what's exalted mean?
Lifted up, glorified, that kind of thing. So you'll move to the better seat.
So,
and here's one thing about you, Tad, and this is it. I promise. I know I keep on saying that, but here's the deal. You will talk to the lowliest person the exact same way you will talk to anybody on, Capitol Hill in Hollywood. Anybody that's got money, you will talk to the lowliest person and that other person the same way. And I think that is a big sign of what your gift is and how you're going to be used in the church.
Doesn't everybody do that?
No. Are you kidding? We all struggle with that. It's like somebody comes in that we respect. Oh, we gotta treat this person better because maybe he'll be able to do something. Christ had another one. He says, do something for the person who is poor that can't pay you back. Then don't do something for the rich because he will pay you back. It's the same idea. And I think the
thing is, the poor will pay you back. The rich won't.
If they ever get something, but the idea is, what if they never get anything? In the end, if you're doing something for the poor, everybody knows why you're doing it. And you talk to anybody out there and you will give them your time. I'm not. This isn't about. This
I
isn't a
love people's
podcast.
stories. I love the story. I love everybody's story.
I know.
Everybody's got one, and they're all amazing. Everybody's story is different and amazing. And yeah, enough about me.
No. It's not enough about you. I just want to tell you this because here's the deal. You call me every other day with some new neighbor that is talking to you that just comes up off the street. Some guy that you're walking into the convenience store and calls you the side. Why is that? Because this is the type of thing, and this is why I'm like, Tad's gift, and this is part of discipleship, Tad. I'm not just doing this randomly. It's like one of the first things you want to know whenever you become a Christian is where am I going to be used and how am I going to be used? And I'm telling you, this is the place, right in this sphere.
I just think it's easy. I think it's fun, and it's almost like I felt like I talked to this lady yesterday because I was buying cigarettes, and I said, "Hey, I love seeing you every single day that I come in here," and she said, "I like seeing you because you make my day, but I'm about to leave and go to another store that's closer to home," and I'm like, "Well, I'm going to miss you. It might make me quit smoking," and it's just little conversations are so easy to have with everybody, Yeah. And I think if we just did stuff like that, it'd be a lot easier. I mean, just we'd all get along. You said was it forgivers?
Forgivers.
What's the thing that means
respecter of person?
Yeah.
It just means you do not show prejudice. Okay. You don't like one type, one class more than another class. You don't. And I'm not saying we all do this to some degree because of formality and because of propriety in certain situations, but at the same time, it's like deep down inside, it seems to me that you're built in with this idea that everybody's equal.
Well, that's the only reason I'm talking to you.
No, that's true. That's true. It's got to be. Well, I was thinking you were doing that. See, I'm thinking you're doing this because you're trying to take such a place of honor, and I'm just making sure. And then I'm like, oh, he talks to the person on the street as well. So he talks to people like me, Michael Patton, and the person who's on the street. So,
yeah. So, which is kind of the same person. But what we talked about earlier, we were laughing and said, "Look, this has to be a podcast."
Oh no. Okay. I'll tell you, the only reason I added this was because I wanted there to be something valuable that comes from this.
Is this going to be a chart?
No, it's not going to be a chart.
Okay, all right.
Just pulling up scripture. That didn't work. Okay, so here's what I said. And guys, listen to me. Whenever I say this, just think about it. Okay, there's a general distinction in Christianity between those. There's kind of a line, and I'm not saying one's a Christian, one's not. One loves the Lord, one doesn't. That's all I'm saying. I'm saying that in Christianity, what I see is that there are people who are more willing to believe in the mysterious things that are out there, and then there's those that are very rational and try to rationalize everything. And I said Genesis chapter 6 is a dividing point, and I can tell what type of Christian you are. Now, again, I'm not saying whether it's a good Christian or bad Christian. It's just there's these types, and you'll understand this if you've been in the church for a long time. In Genesis chapter 6, there is the weirdest passage possible, I think, in probably all literature. I'm not kidding. In all literature, there's not a weirder passage. And Tad, Christians don't know what to do with this. So this is why there's this dividing point. I have I talked to you about this before, the Genesis chapter 6?
No, but up to date. I think you read. Did you write something on Facebook about it?
I don't know. I might have. It seems like I've talked about it. I've been talking about angels.
I think when I talked about it, you text me or something about it. And I look it up because I want to hear it from you because I like the way. I mean, if I read it, it's like, what's Michael going to say?
Okay, listen.
I like to hear your way.
Genesis chapter 6. There's only 6 chapters into the Bible. We've probably had, many thousand years past. It just we're in sixth gear from Genesis chapter 1 all the way to Genesis chapter 12. Lots of stuff happens. They're trying to get to a certain point, but there's a stopping point at Genesis chapter 6, and it says, "Now it came about when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born to them." So the population is growing. I saw a chart, by the way, speaking of this, I saw a chart this morning about how if you look and don't even include God, about population growth and when it happens and how it happens, what must have happened in the past and when it must have all started. And it's very interesting because it follows very much a biblical paradigm whenever you're talking about how are we at 7 billion people and why for so long were they only at, a million to a billion. It just stayed at right in between those. Not a billion.
This would be a whole other podcast and a whole nother segment on colors.
On colors?
Yeah. There's black people, there's white people, there's Asian folks. I mean, you know what I mean?
I thought you were talking about the concept of colors.
Huh?
I thought you were talking about the concept of colors. I was like, yeah, that would. That's very philosophical.
Well, let's just stay with that one then.
All right. Okay. But it says, men began to multiply on the face of the earth. Here's the weird part, right? And daughters were born to them, that the sons of God saw that the daughters of men were beautiful, and they took wives for themselves, whomever they chose. Then the Lord said, my spirit shall not strive with men forever, because he is of flesh. Nevertheless, his days shall be 120 years. The Nephilim, or the giants, were on the earth in those days, or the fallen ones, sometimes they're called, were on the earth in those days. And also afterwards, when the sons of God came into the daughters of men and bore children with them, those were the mighty men of old, the men of renown. Now, here's what I was telling you earlier. There's two types, and I can tell what type of Christian you are depending upon how you interpret this. Number one, you may interpret this and say, that's not, the sons of God, even though the only times that the sons of God is used in the Bible, it's referring to angels or celestial beings. Even though that's true, this one can't be, because there's no way angels had sex with women and then there was a production of giants. Therefore, it's the sons of Seth, or this. They come up with all kinds of theories where this is just basically saying the good guys married the bad guy, or the bad guys married the good guys, and that's why everything got messed up. They were all men, though, men and women, regular men and women. Or you're going to say, no, this does say that angels came down and had sex with women, and there were giants. And so, therefore, I believe that. So you're saying in the past there were actually giants here on the earth, and angels can actually come down and have sex with women. And then you say, yes, it is. It's a weird world, and that's why I was telling you. I at least think it's just a weird world out there, and like just because something becomes normal doesn't make it not weird. Right. Then we look at this, and it's just bizarre because we never see it. But think of dinosaurs themselves. We have the bones for dinosaurs. So we're like, if we didn't have those bones the entire time, you'd just be, that's too weird. That's freaky. That's bizarre. Why don't they exist anymore? And why are they so big? And why are they mean? And, why do they have such big teeth? And why is there this whole, species of them that exist out there? But once it normalizes, it stops being weird. What if angels can do this? What if angels do have bodies and they can have sex with women? Well, who are we to step in and say, no, it can't happen? It's not that it's irrational, Tad. It's not irrational. Irrational means there's some type of logical contradiction that means it can't happen. And you can't present to me any case where it's a logical contradiction for angels to have sex with women and produce children.
Contradiction in the same sentence. That's
how can you what?
Huh?
How can you what?
Say logical and contradiction in the same sentence. That's not rational, in my opinion.
Yeah, if it is irrational,
so there's a logical contradiction. Think about that.
Well, it's just a tautology. It's a restatement of what you're saying, right?
You're gonna beat me on this. I just heard two words that didn't go together for me.
I didn't know you. I didn't know we were fighting about this. I thought you were just agreeing.
Nah, I mean, I'm just going
Either
off.
way. Okay, Tad. Either way, let's go with this. You have to decide. You have to think through this. Am I going to be this guy who thinks that snakes talk in Genesis chapter 3, that donkeys talk in later on in Genesis, that angels come down and have sex with women, and there's giants that were on the land? And remember when we talked about this before? And people are swallowed by whales.
No, I
Or
believe you convinced me on that one. I mean,
Okay.
you sent me something that 100% convinced me on the whale thing, which is crazy because I thought that was insane. I still want to know what a giant was back then. I mean, you said they were like 9 foot tall, Goliath, and they didn't make it that big.
They didn't make who that big?
Anybody, man, they're like 4 feet tall back then. So a giant could be 6 feet.
No, they were actually not that much shorter than us. They're about 5'8" is the average for a man's height back in Jesus' day.
All right. I believe you. Whatever you say.
No, I'm just saying it's kind of, you're stepping into a world where a lot of people get I'm scared to step into that world because, like we were talking about earlier, the distinguished people out there that are rational will no longer like me because I believe this stuff. And I think I'm not saying you have to believe it because it's weird either. I mean, maybe there's an easy explanation for it. But the thing is, once you believe, I mean, here's the deal. Once you believe that God created everything out of nothing, this is child's play. This is easy stuff. I mean, who cares? I mean, I care about this happening, but it's not like I could say it can't happen. God created everything out of nothing. He created you. He created me. He created trees. He created everything that is bizarre and unexplainable from a purely man standpoint. We have to have God come in and be able to do these things. And so we've got this world where I'm sitting here talking to you, and you are 320 miles away from me, and we're talking over camera. 100 years ago, people would say that's bizarre. It can't happen. The problem is it does happen. And the thing is, I think this did happen, and I think it can still happen today. So,
Look,
and you know where I'm going here. You don't want me to go here.
I think the crazier it gets, the more I believe, if I'm being honest with you. Because
Really?
Yeah. I mean, so it had to come from somewhere.
Yeah.
And,
I mean, once you begin to allow for this stuff, everything goes.
Huh?
No, I was just agreeing with you.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to come from somewhere, and who am I to say where it came from? It's easier to believe in God because all this stuff's still here. Like, there's proof. You know what I mean? There's proof.
Yeah.
And you can be an atheist. You can be that Darwin guy or whatever. What's his name? Darwin. Theorist. But the thing is, this has been pretty sustainable for a long time. And it keeps happening. We keep having kids. We keep, exploring God. And if even if atheists, and we'll say that I was one, but I don't want to put it that way because I hate that word, actually. I was still exploring. I wanted to know. You can't just not believe in things. And you've got to believe in something. And so that's where you and I, when you got me, you hooked me, and we started talking about it. And I started thinking about it a lot. I didn't want it to be so formal or so like baptism and stuff, which I'm getting so close to wanting this. You have no idea. No, it's going to happen. But
Pat has not been baptized yet, and he's getting to the point where he wants to be baptized, which is a bigger deal than you think.
Yeah, but it's even atheists study stuff. You know what I mean? They're like, okay, why? I mean, because you have to understand why you don't believe in God just as much as you have to understand why you do believe in God.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's,
Yeah, for
it's
sure.
the
I
same amount
mean,
of effort. It's the same amount
because
of effort.
if you are explaining you don't believe, there's still things that have to have an explanation.
Right.
And therefore, all you're saying is that I believe that something happened, but I do not believe this is the cause.
Exactly.
And therefore, you still have to have an explanation.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, because we're always looking for an explanation. Nobody can go with with loose ends.
Yeah.
There's got to be closure on something.
Well, just think of it this way, too. I mean, think of the book of Revelation. I don't know that we've even started with that yet, but in the book of Revelation, which is the weirdest book in the Bible, this is the weirdest passage as far as like exactly what happened. But the book of Revelation talks about, God raining fire down from heaven, the destruction of the earth, the creatures that come up and devour men. And it's like, I'm not saying you have to take that literally. I'm not sure that I do, but I'm not sure that I don't either. I don't say it can't be literal because it's too weird. And that's kind of the thing that I try to have people think through. Are you saying it can't happen? Do you say you don't believe it because there is a natural allergy that you have to the weirdness of it? And the bizarrity of a doctrine does not determine its veracity. Whether or not it's bizarre doesn't mean it's true or not. Again, just like I think you have always recognized, everything, if you think about it, is absolutely bizarre, just as bizarre as an angel having a sex with a woman and producing a child. How can a person have a sex with another person and produce a child? As if that makes sense. None of it makes sense because we are not God and we cannot explain these things. And so therefore introducing something like this, I'm not saying it's automatic, because it could be some type of, I don't know, it could be interpreted a different way. People do interpret it a different way, but I just don't like it whenever people interpret it a different way because it's too weird, or they don't believe something because it's too weird. We gotta the rationality of it is not determined by us in any sense. Nothing is really rational if you're using rationality that way. But if you're using it as like it's not a contradiction. This stuff can happen.
Well, let me ask you this. I mean,
Yeah.
I think Genesis is just as crazy as Revelation, I must say.
How come?
Because it doesn't make any sense. Revelation is like the end of, what do we call it? The book. It's book or whatever, chapter or something. But
The last book. I think that's
yeah,
what you're looking for.
but Genesis is the first book, and they're both just as bizarre, honestly, to me.
We haven't really gotten into Revelation yet, then.
Okay. All right.
Well, at least you can in Genesis be able to follow the narrative and be able to imagine what's going on.
I mean, you just said that.
Well, yeah, it is. Everything is. It's just, and that's what I'm saying is that we do not accept something. I mean, it doesn't matter whether you're a Christian or not. Nobody should accept something or not accept it because it seems bizarre. It's like this, Dad. Listen to this. This is funny. It's like atheists will come to you and say, do you really believe a snake talked, and make a meme about it and laugh about it, and see how irrational you are? But then they'll turn around on the other side and show that we used to be at least related to monkeys. And so therefore, at one point we were related to snakes, and therefore eventually snakes did talk anyway. So it doesn't make any sense.
Because I didn't hear a snake talk doesn't mean it didn't happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it is weird. I mean, I do believe that is to be taken literally, but I have no problem with people who take some of this stuff and say, "Hey, it should be interpreted this way because it's kind of a more of thematic." But if you're doing it because you think it's too weird, then you're going to be messy, because we live in a very, very weird world, and it's going to get weirder the further we go. I mean, whether it's technology or the revelation of, we call it the thinning of the veil between what is going on behind the scenes where Paul says our battle is not against flesh and blood, it's against powers and principalities and dark forces. We are battling a spiritual battle, and there is something else. I had a guy, listen to this. I had a guy at the most conservative church that I've ever taught at, the most conservative, right? So picture it. It's like they believe everything, nothing but the Bible. That was actually their motto. No creed but the Bible type thing. And then I started talking about demons, and one of the guys in this conservative church said, I don't believe in demons. And I was like, how can you not believe in demons? I mean, you're conservative too. But it was just still the one thing he could not hurdle was he could not believe that there were actually evil spirits out there. And I'm like, why? It doesn't make any sense that you cannot conceive of that. Do you not believe it because you've never seen it? Do you not believe it because it's just too, it's an odd thing because it's Hollywoodish or something like that?
Yeah. And see, I believe in things I haven't seen on purpose because it's more fun to believe in things you haven't seen, but you expect them. Okay. 2 quick questions. One, you were being funny and posted something about Satan yesterday on Facebook. I think. Remember?
Huh.
And I asked you, should I read Satan's Bible?
Oh, yeah. Okay, I got you.
Okay, but even thinking that made me feel dirty. You know what I mean? But some of me wants to YouTube it just to see, like, how they think.
Hey, I'm on Facebook right now, and I'm watching us.
And I
would a couple of seconds behind.
If I got to see some of the satanic things, I would walk into a church with no problem and saying, talk to me. Let's talk. I would have no problem doing that. But is it satanic to watch a YouTube satanic thing?
Well, you tell me real quick. Why would it be? What would you think? Why would you think that it is?
Because because I've been taught that.
There's what I put in there.
There's that one.
And I put this because I got this on right whenever I got on TikTok. This was the first thing. It was a live session, and it says Satanic Bible Study. And I thought it was funny because here I am. I'm in a Satanic Bible Study right now, and I started to listen. Then I took a screenshot, put it on Facebook, and I told nobody to bother me because I'm in a Satanic Bible Study right now. But is it wrong? Well, of course it wouldn't be wrong, objectively speaking. What are you doing other than listening to what they have to say? I mean, it's not as if by opening up a Satanic Bible.
Anything, you know what I mean?
Huh?
They're not going to convince me of anything.
No.
I'm curious.
Yeah, I think we need to be curious. I mean, you've got to study. You got to know the other side in order to engage with the other side.
Yeah.
And it's like, I actually don't know much about the Satanic Bible. I know that Satanists today are actually very, very atheistic in a way. They don't even really believe in God, and they don't even really believe in Satan. It's a whole different worldview that's bizarre, yes, kind of new agey, yes, but it's not something where they sit around and really say, hey, I admit I worship Satan.
I think they think they're cool just because they don't believe in God.
Yeah.
So they're going to do that. So I think it'd be fun when I move up there in January for us just to go sit, not say a word, and just listen.
Yeah.
And learn. You know?
I don't know of any Satanic Bible Study, actually. I mean, if you find one, that would be fun. I mean, we have to go on TikTok again. I like it. I like it whenever I like to go to Satanic Bible Studies and see the 666 tattooed on their arms, and they're super cool, 666, and then reveal to them that the original, with the earliest manuscript we have, actually has 616. So you're not actually the mark of the beast. That is not Satan's number.
Yeah.
It's the what do they say? It's not the mark of the beast. It's the neighbor of the beast.
616, not 18. No.
Actually, I'm not positive about that. That is something that is a theory, and there is good evidence for it being actually 616, but I still think there's better evidence for it being 666. But I just like to mess with people.
I do too. Well, I like to people, and I'll just back you up on stuff and say, yeah, whatever Michael said.
Well, here's all you have to do, and I'm pretty sure I'm right on this. That we have Irenaeus in 150 AD. So this is 50 years after it was written, who talks about a manuscript that he saw that has 616. So that's early. That would be the earliest if that was true.
I just think it'd be fun to learn about Satan, really.
Hey, we can talk about angelology. That's what it is. Angelology, Satanology, demonology. That's a fun subject because the Bible does talk about it.
Oh, sorry. You talked about angels the other day on Facebook, and I have a lot of questions for that, but we've kind of gone over time here. But I like to talk about angels.
What did I say about angels? I don't remember that.
I don't know, but keep showing me Satan.
That's scary. That the idea of him being a ram, that's pretty popular. A ram with ram speed.
The thing is, I'm an Aries, and that's a ram. It scares the shit out of me.
Don't worry. Why would Aries have anything to do with this? Why would being an Aries?
Because that's their sign. It's a ram. You know, Scorpio's got theirs. You know, all of them have their signs.
Yeah. That sign has no power over you in any sense.
No, but
no,
I just don't like seeing it. When I know it's a weird thing, bro. Just let me be weird.
Dude, I'm not saying I want to be scared to death if some ram-headed man showed up at my door. I would.
He's probably real savvy and just cool and got the coolest suit. And hey, Tad, I'm whatever. You know,
he presents himself Paul says that he presents himself as an angel of light.
Yeah.
But he's also a lion hiding in wait. That's what a very first thing whenever Cain was getting ready to kill Abel at the very beginning, Genesis chapter 4, and Cain's getting ready to kill Abel, and God says to him, "Why are you thinking this way? Don't you know that evil, or the evil, or say Satan, is crouching at the door waiting to jump on you?"
God said that?
Yeah. It's exactly what he said. And then Paul says in 2 Corinthians 11, no wonder, for even Satan himself presents himself, or Satan disguises himself as an angel of light. So you're right. I mean, it's not as if he comes up and looks like Satan in most contexts. I mean, in most contexts, it's going to be something that's a whisper in your ear and
maybe
a good idea that's really not a good idea.
Yeah. It's that movie Willow. Remember Willow? Tom Cruise was in it with the girl that was also, I think, in Ferris Bueller.
No, I remember Willow with Val Kilmer.
No, it says Tom Cruise and the girl that was in Ferris Bueller, and it had the Satan that I always pictured my whole life, and it was scary. And then now, the older I get, the more I'm learning from you and through reading and doing things. It's like Satan is a stud, honestly, on the outside. But on the inside, he's looking pretty deep, and he finds you quick.
Yeah. Yeah, it's weird. In angels too, this is just a side thing that I think is interesting, is that in the book of Hebrews, which we don't know who wrote that. It's the one book in the New Testament that we really don't have any idea who wrote it. But
move on.
Huh?
Blame it on Paul and move on.
That's exactly what they did in the early church. I swear, that's exactly what they did.
We talked about this last time.
Okay, yeah. I'm sorry, but anyway, so in that book, it says that there is no redemption for angels, which is really interesting. Oh, okay, you're talking about my post where I said that angels. Why do we think angels fell all at once? That I believe that they could possibly be falling all the time. So there's in Christianity, in Christian history, if you look at it, most people believe that angels fell in the past. There was one big rebellion, and maybe it happened at creation, right after creation, or many years before creation. But we know that it happened in the past because Satan was in the garden already whenever God created man. And so maybe he created man and Satan rebelled. But anyway, most people would say they all fell right then. But I'm like, at least I don't know, and somebody can tell me different. I'm willing to be convinced, but there's nowhere that gives me any idea that they cannot fall at any time that they want. I mean, like, hey, I want to rebel against God, and I'm going to do it today. And another angel, a week later does it, and all throughout history, maybe that's happening. Why would we think they all just fell at once? That's my theory, at least. I'm not saying it's true, but I think it'd be very hard to say with any degree of certainty that is wrong. But we do know that is weird. There is no redemption for angels. You want me to give you my theory on that? Why God does not save angels?
I love you, Michael.
What are you doing?
I'll call you in a minute. No, we're going to do this again here in a minute.
Why?
Because I want to start this.
Are you getting bored?
No, I've got so many questions, but we've
all right. Good. Well, you want to close us out and tell everybody goodbye?
Bye, everybody. Thank you. I love you, Michael, so much. And this is honestly, with all the adventures that we've all been on, it's the greatest one to be on. And it's if you don't believe, try.